And a good day, family. Ron Holland here, host of Community Voices on Old School 105.3 and Praise 100.9. The original Million Man March on October 16, 1995 was a watershed moment in our nation's capital. Certainly there was a huge gathering of African-American men, and I am really excited about having Corey Muhammad of the Muhammad's Mosque 36 here in Charlotte to talk about the 22nd anniversary of the original Million Man March. Minister Muhammad, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. As I indicated, it was a watershed moment for our community in particular, but for the nation. That gathering eclipsed every other gathering prior to that moment. Talk a little bit about it.
When the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was given the vision to call for 1 million men coming to Charlotte, or 1 million black men coming to Charlotte, he had no idea that it would actually end up being close to 2 million men coming. And the intent of the day was to speak to atonement, to speak to us atoning for not being the kind of fathers we should have been, the husbands we should be, and what we should do for our community. So it definitely touched a chord amongst the black community, period. Definitely amongst black men, even many black women. So many supported. Even though we asked just for men to come, many black women supported. So just as you just remember those days, right now, 20 years ago, when we talked to people that were there, I was blessed to be there. They have nothing but fond memories, the peace of the day. As a matter of fact, the Final Call, which is our organ of news that comes out weekly, it had as the cover after that edition, a glimpse of heaven. And that's what it felt like. Yeah. The peace that was there, it felt like heaven, you know, no fights, no anything. 2 million black men on the mall, as you mentioned, the biggest event in this nation's history happening right there and being used by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to bring us together.
It was an extraordinary moment for black men, partly because, at least in my view, we had an opportunity, number one, to see some real strong leaders actually address our issues. But also, we were being held accountable for the things that we aren't doing or weren't doing in our community. Are there things that we, you know, as we approach this 22nd anniversary, are there things that we should be doing at this point?
Yeah, there's so much we should be doing as a community. However, as you mentioned, 20 years ago, the theme was atonement. 20 years later, at the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, which was October 15th, 2015, at that time, and still now today, we saw so many social justice issues happening, so many black people being killed, what seems to be in what was, in so many cases, unjustified murders. And so the theme of 2015 was justice or else. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned we're fighting a war on two fronts. Of course, we have the unjust police shootings, the police brutality, but the other war that we're fighting in our community is the black on black crime, fratricide, what we're doing to each other. And so the war on two fronts is difficult to fight one, but it's one we must fight. So when you ask what are some of the things we should be doing now, yes, we stand up, we fight against this police brutality that's happening, even sometimes by black officers. Even just a couple of days ago, or actually a little over a month ago, we saw what happened to our Latino brother. His name is slipping me now, Galando, I think is his last name, with his hands up. We see on the video what happened there. So what should we be doing? Yes, fighting that. But the other part is we have to go to work to be able to make our communities a decent and safe place to live. And that leads us up into what we should be doing coming up on this 22nd anniversary.
Now, you are deeply entrenched in the activist community here in Charlotte. You mentioned police issues because our interactions with police, obviously, it is a bad thing to actually have folks who are supposed to protecting our community almost seem as if they're our enemy, and that's unfortunate. But are there any tangible changes that you've seen from the police department that indicates that we're on an upward trajectory in terms of our relationship?
Well, Chief Kerr Putney has really put out different initiatives. There's some transparency workshops and things as an outreach. Actually, I've been invited to be involved with some things as well. Those are some steps, but we have a long way to go. The Citizens Review Board doesn't have the teeth that it should have. And so, in my opinion, and the chief has said, you know, you can't necessarily mandate all the officers' actions. He tries to do what he can to make sure he doesn't have a certain kind of officers on the force. But yet and still, when we see in acts like the Jonathan Farrell happen, we see in other acts happen, any acts that are done are good, but we have not done enough. So yes, there's been some things done, some outreach, community outreach, but we still have a far way to go. If we have anybody in police uniform that is using that as a badge to hide racism, or as a badge to unjustly kill someone, or knowing that they can hide behind the simple fact that I felt like my life was threatened, so take someone else's life, as long as that exists on any police force, Charlotte or anywhere else, then it lets us know we're nowhere near where we should be.
Let's go national. Donald Trump is, of course, the president of the United States. He has made some extraordinary statements. I happen to believe that we are living under an authoritarian. That's just my personal belief. But what is the minister doing and saying about the kind of leadership that we're seeing on a national level with regard to Donald Trump? As
we led into this political season with the last election, presidential election, and there's probably some that will be watching this that's familiar with InfoWars. You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did an interview with Alex Jones, if I'm not mistaken, that's his name there. And even outside of that, the minister was talking about the presidential election. And one of the things he mentioned, you know, he didn't show support of any of them. Because we're like, it's like having a choice between Satan, Lucifer, and Beelzebub. You know, all of them, you're going to end up with some bad situations. But what he did say of President Trump is that if he is elected, he would take America to hell in a rocket ship. And if we really see what we're viewing here, but even though we're putting a lot of emphasis on Trump, Trump had a base that got him there. So he's actually expressing the sentiments of many that feel like that they're losing out in this white America. White males, but also white females helped him get over. So the minister is addressing, as he's always done, the issues that we see, the issues of lack of justice. And even though the minister is addressing these things, I think Trump, President Trump, is doing a good job of showing that America is in confusion and chaos right now in terms of its leadership.
Black men in the NFL, they are standing up by taking a knee. I'm interested in what your perspective is on this issue, given the fact that some of the owners are now suggesting that these players are now required to stand. Any thoughts on those issues?
Well, many have likened the NFL draft to what used to happen in slavery. You know, many have likened it to that. And the only thing I would say is this country is supposed to be about freedom of choice. It's supposed to be about freedom to be able to speak as you would speak. But when you hear owners like Jerry Jones say what he said of the Dallas Cowboys and others, and even hear the president call the players sons of, you know, that B word there, meaning calling their mothers bees and saying that they're sons of bees. And so you see a paternalistic slave on a plantation type mentality that's saying, even though the NFL is, as I've heard different statistics, some I've heard as high as 77% black, but you're telling people what they can and cannot do or you will not play. See, once we realize the unity that we have, if all of those players and others stood together and if they took a knee or took a kneel or whatever, you'd be surprised how much the sentiment would change when you have some unity present there.
Do you see a day where the entire NFL team, all the teams actually take a knee?
I don't know if I'll see a day when we see all of them, but the president himself is helping in many different ways to bring justice to, or bring recognition and attention to what Colin Kaepernick was doing in the first place. First of all, the waters have gotten muddied. It was never about, according to Colin Kaepernick, disrespect of the flag or the soldiers or anything like that. It was about bringing attention to this injustice in our policing in the black communities. And what's happened now is the narrative is being changed, and we have to be careful that the players, those that are taking a knee, they're doing it for the injustice that we see, not to be disrespectful, but the narrative now being played by some of these owners, being by the president, that this is disrespectful to the flag. So it's like a, it's that 1-2 Molly type thing. You kind of switch it up a little bit. Distraction. Bait and switch to kind of distract people from what the real issues are. And that leads us up into the theme again, 22nd anniversary of the Million Man March. The theme is separation or death. And when some hear that theme and see that theme, it's a strong theme, but it's so true if we really take a minute and just look at what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is saying.
Now, let's circle back to Charlotte. Are you organizing for a particular event?
This year, we do have the showing. This message this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time will be a live message that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will be doing, and it will be going to not only here, in America, but others in other countries will be viewing this message. So here locally, the message will take place in Newark, New Jersey. But locally in various different cities, some 100+ cities, there'll be live showings of this webcast. So here in Charlotte, we'll have a live showing of the webcast at Muhammad Mosque 36, which is at 203 North Cloudman. Many of the people know Brookshire. They know where that Burger King is on Brookshire. We the next light up. Used to be by what was called Club Temple. If you ask black folks what Club Temple, most of them know where we at. So it's not Temple now, but that's where the mosque is at 2 o'clock. Doors open up at 1:30. We'll have the viewing there. We're encouraging the community to come out, hear the message. If for whatever reason someone couldn't come out, then they could actually go to NOI.org. We just want people to see it. If we can come together and see it in the same place, wonderful, but we can't get everybody there. So as many seeing this broadcast as possible, tune your device, your cell phone, your tablet, whatever, to NOI.org this coming Sunday, October 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay.
Now, as we close out, what message would you like to convey to black men, particularly in our community?
To black men in our community, you know, if the man stands up as the backbone, then other things begin to fall in line. We look at the condition of our community, and our sisters have done a wonderful job. They always have done a wonderful job. However, the black family is in disarray, and it didn't just happen by happenstance. So to black men, I would say is that we have to accept the responsibility to make our community a decent and safe place to live. And with all that we go out and get, with all the things we go out there and acquire, we must have the knowledge of self and the unity. Black men and the black community needs to know, number one, that we are the solution to the problem that exists. And every problem is a solution, and we have more of the answer than we possibly know. But I do want to just share this last point is that, you know, when people hear separation, sometimes we think, man, that sounds so harsh. But separation and segregation, sometimes in someone's minds, they get clouded, they get confused. Segregation is the separation of two people with an inferior and a superior position. This is what we saw here doing segregation that many of our people wanted to fight against. Although in segregation, because of segregation, black communities had black businesses, had black schools. Our children learn more about black history. So when we talk about separation, we're not saying segregation. That's separation based on a superior and an inferior. What separation is two people coming together saying, look, this is not working. Two equals deciding to separate and do something that's in the best benefit for both. So the Chinese, although they live here, they have Chinatown. Many of our brown brothers, they live here, but they have on Central Avenue and other places thriving businesses. So again, we say the same thing. Separation.
But you're not talking about carving up the United States or anything like that, because that's obviously the perception.
Yeah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about in a final call, you know, that we want some of this nation and we can call our own. So at some point we do plan to get to that area, to that point. Right now, separation starts is the basis of it is having land and having the mindset to separate. We have a lot of work to do to repair in our community, and you know, if we can continue as we are, and I don't think the results have been going that great. So separation is a God-given, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's teaching us, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did, this is the solution that God gives. He gave it to Moses, you know, with Pharaoh. He didn't say, go with the Egyptians, you all come together, integrate, try to make it work. No, he had to separate one wicked people from a people that was called the children of God.
Okay. Well, if folks, again, would like more information about the 22nd anniversary of the Million Man March and obviously the Day of Atonement, how can you be reached?
We can be reached at 704-399-0096. Again, 704-399-0096. Or simply go to Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Muhammad Mosque number 36. Or last but not least, the website, mosque36.com, MOSQUE.com.
All right. Corey Muhammad, local representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Minister of the Muhammad's Mosque number 36 here in Charlotte. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Again, if you would like more information about the 22nd anniversary of the Million Man March, log on to our website, oldschool105.3.com, and that information will be available. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Ron Holland, host of Community Voices. Have a good day.